On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. One-of-a-kind opinions, big-name guests, the teams you care about every day. It's the Ron Johnson Show, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and it starts now.
Yo, welcome back to another edition of the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports Minnesota. My name is Gabe Henderson, and today, obviously, I am filling in for Ron Johnson. And as always, though, we got producer Sam Meckstrom on the ones and twos. And here we are, the last day of the week with another loaded show for you guys today. Coming up on the show, we finally get to hear from the big man, talking about former Minnesota Vikings defensive tackle Michael Pierce, whom, in my opinion, never really got a chance to give a proper goodbye to the state of Minnesota, but more particularly the Minnesota Vikings. It'll be good to hear from him and get his thoughts on his time in Minnesota, as well as what he's looking forward to now in his second stint with the Baltimore Ravens. To round out the show today, we'll have the Daily Three. That's 3 topics, 3 questions, 3 answers. But before we get to all that, the biggest news here in Minnesota sports right now is the fact that we were less than one way from the start of the 2022 Minnesota Vikings training camp. And Sam, I don't know about you, but when I say training camp, I get this bittersweet in my feeling. I get this bittersweet feeling in my stomach simply because it's sweet because football season is back. It's around the corner. We got 6 months straight of football starting August 5th. But in the same breath, I'm like, dude, I just bought a house this past June. I just started enjoying it. And then boom, football season is around the corner. So I feel like home will simply be just like a place I visit for 8 hours the next 6 months. But I'm legit excited about this football season, right? You got a really good team on paper. You got a new regime. But in the same breath, it's like Minnesota winners is one day closer. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, it is always the mark, kind of the unofficial end of summer for anybody who works in football. And it really is 0 to 60 because you get super comfortable in the offseason. The June and July months are great because there's very little going on football-wise. And then you suddenly jump immediately in cold turkey to the most intense coverage of the year, where it's long days outside watching full practices, you're digesting a lot of content, you're trying to learn 90 players, and that all comes at you fast. And you know that you've got 5 months in front of you covering this team. So it's going to be a fun team to cover, no doubt. No shortage of storylines and pretty high expectations. But, yeah, there is always that bittersweet emotion when training camp comes around. It is about to get busier for you, for me, for anybody associated.
Yeah, I think busy is the right word to use. But it's a good busy, right? Because this is what we sign up for every single year. Once the offseason comes, we're like, oh, my gosh, like there's no football and it's blah, blah, blah. We got to watch cornhole or cricket or racquetball on ESPN+. But now the 7 months that went by so quick, and now we're back in the thick of things. So it's kind of like pick your poison. I like my poison to be the football season. But in the same breath, you talk about those storylines. And for me, the biggest storyline that I think people aren't talking about is the backup running back position battle here for the Minnesota Vikings. Alexander Mattison, that's my guy. And we all know Dalvin Cook, he's a starter here in Minnesota. But Alexander Mattison, I don't think this job is his to win, or it's pinned or penciled in for him to be the backup running back this year. I believe they brought Ty Chandler here for a reason. I believe Kene Nwangwu is going to have a fair opportunity to win that backup starting role. And I think if you want to solidify that role, you're going to have you're going to have your feet in the water when it comes to being on special teams. Alexander Mattison never really played special teams outside of kickoff return for this Mike Zimmer regime the past few years. But Alexander Mattison is going to say, okay, he's going to have to, be a gunner on punt return or be somebody on kick return if he really wants to win this job. But I'm just speaking of, my storylines or the things that I'm looking at. Is there a underrated story or a storyline that you got your eyes on, Sam?
I'm going to keep people in suspense about my storylines, Gabe. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You've got lines for MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf, as well as live in-game betting, sports wagering information. They've got scores and podcasts to keep you fully up to date at BetOnline. Head there today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening. BetOnline, where the game starts. Storylines that I'm watching for, Gabe Henderson. I want to see front seven rotation. How is this thing going to look? With Ed Donatell's defense, you've got now traditional edge rushers that are standing up. They're sort of in that outside linebacker role, who are going to fill in the depth positions on the defensive line. I don't know how I feel about the Vikings' depth without, Everson Griffin in the mix anymore. Sheldon Richardson not in the mix anymore. So I want to figure out who, like, the 10 defensive linemen are going to be on this team. I think that they've got a good start with Za'Darius Smith and Danielle Hunter. I like Harrison Phillips. Who else? Who else is going to contribute? Because inevitably, there's going to be a rotation on the defensive line. Inevitably, there are going to be injuries on the defensive line. So you've got to have depth there. And the Vikings have learned the hard way the past couple of years what they look like without that depth. With Everson Griffin's issues, Danielle Hunter's injuries, they've realized that, man, without our top two, we're not getting anywhere. And I think that's what I'm concerned about is, are they top heavy or are they deep? And I'd like them to be deeper than they were last year with that pass rush.
Yeah, if you can get deeper with that pass rush, with a pass rush that was top 5 in the league last year with all those injuries, I believe this Vikings team is going to be, the defense at least, is going to be a force to reckon with. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, back in February, he said this defense is built to make the job easier for the cornerbacks. So if the cornerbacks are going to be the weakest position on the field, that tells you, if you're a defensive lineman or an outside linebacker in this 3-4 defense, that the pressure is on you. You got to get pressure to the quarterback. Za'Darius Smith, we signed you to a 3-year, $47 million deal to get to the quarterback alongside Danielle Hunter, who is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. It's already been proven. He just has to stay healthy. Like you said, once you start getting towards that interior defensive line, the Harrison Phillips of the world, the Dalvin Tomlinsons of the world, those guys are going to have to start putting pressure on the quarterback and winning their gaps. If you are supposed to be in an A gap and you're supposed to hold up your lineman so the running back doesn't get through, that's your job. You may not get a sack, but your job is to make it easier on everybody else. So it's going to be a collective group effort. I know a lot of people is talking about the Vikings offensive side of the ball also, but I'm not too concerned with the offensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be set in stone for what they can do. I think there would be a top 10 offense, but we're talking about the defense right now. They're going to have to step up, especially in the absence of some of the guys that were here last year. And I'm just speaking of one guy in particular who didn't play as much as we wanted him to, but when he got in, he made plays. And I'm talking about Michael Pierce. We talked to him. We're about to talk to him in a couple of minutes. But I want to see who steps up in that role, because when Michael Pierce played those 7 or 8 games last year, his presence was felt. So is that Harrison Phillips? Is that Dalvin Tomlinson? Is that Jalen Twyman? Is that somebody that we don't even know about right now? That nose guard position for this Minnesota Vikings team has to be a force to be reckoned with. And a guy that I know that did a really good job, whether that was in Baltimore before he got to Minnesota or his 7 games here in Minnesota, is Michael Pierce. I'm talking about the former Minnesota Vikings defensive tackle who recently resigned this offseason with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm talking about the juggernaut, my guy, Michael Pierce. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good morning, man. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Man, no complaints at all. I know it's summertime right now. We were talking about it earlier, right? Like, it's that time of the year where, you get that sweet feeling of like, all right, it's football season, but in the same breath, it's like, dude, like summer's already over. Like, how is it where you are?
I just left Alabama. I'm in Maryland now, moving some stuff, but it's hot. So, yes, summer is over, but the heat won't stop until the middle of September. So we got a little while to go, a little ways to go.
So, the question, man, like, so when do the butterflies kick in, right? Because usually, like, after mini camp, you got like a month off. Like every year in the league, you get that mini camp and you get that month off or so, and then you start to get back in the groove, like training camp and everything. So, like, when does the butterflies start? Is it like after the 4th or during the 4th or when?
I'll say it's like right after. So, I tend to start sleeping light probably like last week. So we report on the 26th. So last week you start sleeping light, you start obsessing over, is everything in place to where I can just hit the field running? So, yeah, probably like right after the 4th, but it'll kick in like 2 weeks before camp. I'm like, all right, I need to tighten anything that I haven't tightened down. And, basically at that point, you right there on the field. So
I think people forget that while we do get off for the 4th, for like at least the players, like you still got to grind. Like it's still one of those things where it's like, man, we still like, yeah, I get some time off, but like I still got to find 3-4 hours or sometime during the week to still get this grind in, because you don't want to come back to camp out of shape.
Right. No, man. I say for me, that's why I do the bulk of my running is right before, just making sure your cardio, especially as a bigger guy, your cardiovascular has to, hold you not only through practice, but right up until the season. So, you have your little drinks on the 4th of July, and then you got to tailor it on back, man, because, you literally probably like 20 days until you got a report. So if you're chilling too hard, it'll tell on you quick.
Yeah, I feel that, man. Well, like we started this conversation, you were up here in Minnesota for 2 years, played here for 1. You set out the COVID year, but I really wanted. We were talking before, like I really wanted to give this opportunity for you to, I don't know if it's closure, but like when you got released by the Vikings, oh shoot, like we love Michael Pierce, blah 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 blah. But for you, like for starters, how would you describe your time in Minnesota?
I did an exit interview right after the season. I'll just say it's incomplete, or it was incomplete for me. I felt like I definitely had a lot more to give. I started off hot. I mean, before that even, we had the COVID year, and my upper respiratory issues, whatever. I decided to sit out, so that's a wasted year. And then I started off hot, and I was playing really well. I think I played well in each and every of the 6 or 7 games I did play in, but unfortunately, the injury bug bit me like never before. So, tore my calf right before camp, right after July 5th, I think. And then, I sat out a little bit, but made it back for the first game, made it back for camp for the bulk of it. So that was great. Started out hot with 2 sacks, played well. And then Cleveland game, I tore my tricep. And if you know anything about defensive line, you can't do anything about dang tricep. So, fought my way back, came back, played well against Pittsburgh and Detroit and a few other teams. But for the most part, man, if I definitely, sacks wise, that was a career year for me. But just putting everything together, I felt like I was on the right track to, forward my game and, put the world on notice that I could do a little bit more than run stuff. And so, unfortunately, the injury bug bit me, but put a lot of work in this off season to make sure that doesn't happen again.
I feel that 100%, man. You look at it. I mean, I think my first impression of you, like on the field, was that Cincinnati Bengals game, those 2 sacks where you sack Joe Burrow, or you rubbing the belly, or you blowing kisses to the fans, and it's like, all right, like Mike is here. This is what we were missing out on. But in the same breath, like you said, things started to transpire, like certain things out of your control. So I think my question for you is, if you could change anything during your stint in Minnesota, would you, if anything?
That's it. I wish the only thing I can say for real, outside of, injuries, which we all know those are just, they're inevitable, but you just pray that happen to you. I wish they'd had the vaccine earlier so I could have played my first year on the contract. So, I hated just watching those games and just missing football, man. Like I said, I've been playing this game since I was 4. I'm turning 30 this year, so it's 26 years of football, and then you just miss it. And like I said, I think that, I'll probably have signed a 3-year deal here, so this will probably be it. So you don't want to, especially at the end, miss those years where you feel like you're on top of your game. And I think Coach Dre really taught me a ton. And it's going to continue to show as long as I play. But obviously you want to take the injuries away, and I wish I could just sit there and play every game. So if the vaccine was, at the top of the mandate of COVID, I for sure would have got out there and played. But just looking back on it, man, it's unfortunate. But, our game is how it goes sometimes. And, Drew Brees got hurt, and he ended up with the Saints, and he made a lot out of his time with the Saints. So I won't be playing nowhere near as long as Drew Brees, but I think I still got a little left in the tank, man.
No, I feel that, man. You said you played ball, what, 26 years? Like you played since you were 4? Like,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever had a season in your 26 years that were decided by so many close games like they were last year?
No, man. That was. I mean, even the year before, it was like that. Just watching, I was a part of the team, but from afar, not at all. So I remember the Cincinnati game was a heartbreaker. Arizona the same way. I don't know. Nobody can really put their finger on why it was happening or anything like that. But for some reason, we just kept finding ourselves in those tight battles, and most of those games in NFL are between 3 or 4 points. But we have 1 point loss, 2 point loss. The thing that I can say about those guys in that locker room is they're resilient, man. And even when the chips weren't falling our way early, we kept fighting, and obviously we didn't make it to the playoffs, but those guys got a lot of heart, man. A lot of respect for them.
Man, I understand that. Everything happens for a reason, right? And the journey. I mean, it's all about the journey, not the end destination. And right now on your journey, you're back in Baltimore where it started. And I know when you look at that, it's like, oh, well, he's back at home. So was that transition a little bit easier going back? Like, did you just basically put some of the shoes that were in your closet in Minnesota back at your home in Baltimore, or how did that work out?
Yeah, basically, man. I found a place in the same neighborhood, right down the street from the facility. So, like I said, for me, if I obviously had to leave, but I'm glad I don't have to start over, especially being an older guy. I know the coaching staff, I know the GM, I know a lot of players are still here. So, like I said, never envisioned leaving Minneapolis, but God has his way of doing things. It's higher than my way of thinking. But like I said, for me, as an older guy now, once you hit 30, you're old in the league. So it's good to be somewhere where, obviously I know them. It's a familiarity there, and they know what I can do, and they also saw a lot of what I can do in the pass rush. So that was definitely beneficial for my time in Minneapolis.
All right, talk to me about this, man. I know we talked about it a little bit before when you were in Minnesota. Jackson, right? Like outside looking in, he's just like a freak of nature, like one of the best, most athletic quarterbacks we've ever seen. But you get to see what he does, and you get to see what he does in practice pretty much every day. Whether that's you on the bench watching him playing against scout team because you're with the ones, or you're just like ones versus ones. Like describe just who he is as a player and then as a person.
On the football field, man, he is. I kind of liken him to like Danielle Hunter. They just aliens, man. It's some stuff that you would just see these people do that, obviously we all professional athletes at this point. I've been one of the best nose guards in the game, been playing with Terrell Suggs and all that kind of stuff, but it's just another level that, when stuff breaks down, those guys just tend to shine above everybody else. So, it's plenty of times where, we do an inter-squad practice, or, just ones-on-ones. We do that a lot during camp. So if you're not careful, you can literally roll your ankle, look stupid, turn around, look the wrong way, et cetera, man. The dude is just an amazing athlete. And like I said, playing with Danielle Hunter, you see him do some things, and it happens in a split second where he's blocked, everybody's blocked, and you blink and he's taking the quarterback down. Same thing with Lamar, man. Those runs, you can't hit them in practice, but those elusive moves that you see on Madden and all that stuff is 10 times worse when you got to actually deal with this crap in practice every day. So I like for him to take it easy on me. I had to get readjusted, all that. But long story short, man, he's an awesome dude, down to earth guy, from Miami, just true to himself. That's what's the most blossoming thing about him. He's true to himself. He doesn't try to be who he isn't. He leads in his own way, and that's something that we've always embraced here in Baltimore. And he's just a really good guy, man, and loves the game and does his best to win. As you can see, he fights till there's nothing left. So that's all you can really ask from the quarterback, man.
Man, I heard that. You sound a little upset too when you were like, man, I get tired of seeing some of that crap in practice because it's just like, dude, like you got to stop this. I need to hit the quarterback. I need to get a good look. But I mean, he's just like you said, a freak of nature. So it's different.
Right. No, that throws your angles off. You think you had a pursuit angle. Obviously, he ain't run the 40, but I'm nowhere near adept at catching this dude. So if I stay on the track and if he blows by or he cuts back, I just keep on going. So normally when we play normal quarterbacks, there may be a quarterback hit or something, but with 8, you kind of get a pass from the D-line coach, so they don't cuss you out or anything like that because they see it just like you have to see it. So no, I normally get credit if I get close to the quarterback. Kyler Murray is just as he's pretty quick, but ain't nobody like 8. So if I can get close to him, that means I'm doing all right.
Well, look, I'm gonna get you out of here with this. It's a 2-part question. One, what would be like your final parting words for Minnesota Vikings fans that big Michael Pierce fans, but it just didn't work out the way it worked out? And then 2, what are you most looking forward to being back in Baltimore?
I'll just say thank you for embracing me. I know this was, those 2 years were, disappointing to y'all. Obviously, even more so disappointing to me. That's not how I intended to come in and or go out. So very, very much so apologies, but the embrace from the city, the love that, I don't even care. Michael Pierce fans, the fans of the Vikings are just so warming. I enjoy walking downtown, living downtown, just being around the city, man. It's a big football town. I loved it. Miss Lake Minnetonka dearly. So no, especially to the boys, man. Dalvin, both of the Dalvins, Kirk, Adam, thank y'all all for embracing me. I'm gonna be rooting for y'all, just from afar. So I think I'm most excited to be back in Baltimore is just the familiarity, man. Just being healthy and playing the best I can play, and taking those tools that Coach Dre instilled in me and putting it into this system, and being an older guy in the locker room, just helping mold the young guys. So winning is number one, obviously, but also taking those tools that I learned and I unleashed a little bit in Minneapolis and bringing it over here and putting a little mix on it. So obviously I'm forever grateful for Coach Dre, Daniil, Griff, praying for you, brother, always. And like I said, Dalvin Thomas is my boy for life. And wishing everybody the best and wishing myself a healthy season, and about to get it rolling here in a few days.
Man, absolutely. Well, that's Michael Pierce off the field, the juggernaut on the field. I'm honored to call you a friend, man. Best of luck going forward. Looking forward to talking to you, bro.
Appreciate it, brother. You have a blessing.
Yes, sir.
It's a great day in the Ekstrom household. You know why? Because I got a fresh shipment of Built Bars right to my door, and I can't wait to dig in. I'll probably go have a Built Bar after this show to recharge. They're healthy. They're tasty. They're a gift to your taste buds, and there's a new flavor that I'm practically drooling over. Coconut brownie chunk Built Bars, and they've been given the Puffs treatment. Delicious, marshmallowy, 100% real chocolatey flavor. So good. Coconut brownie chunk puffs are only here for a limited time, so go to Built.com now to make sure you don't miss out. Use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo LOCKED15 for coconut brownie chunk Built Bars, and do it now.
All right, always good talking to Michael Pierce. Glad to hear his final thoughts or his final impressions on his time here in Minnesota. But as we move on to the show, we get to, I guess, the fan favorite part. I'm talking about the Daily 3.
Let's get into it, Gabe. I got 3 questions for you, 3 minutes each, starting with Bill Barnwell, ESPN.com, ranked all the skill positions in the league, or the group of skill players, I should say, for each team. Where did the Vikings skill players land? Pretty well. Number 4 in football. Who were they behind? San Francisco. Number 3, Las Vegas. Number 2, wouldn't have thought that, but Devontae Adams, I guess. And Cincinnati, number 1. Gabe, your thoughts on where the Vikings fell in skill position talent?
I mean, if we're saying the Vikings are 4th behind the Las Vegas Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers, I would say they should be 2nd in that race. The Las Vegas Raiders, I mean, Devontae Adams, best wide receiver in the league, you have a case there. But when I think about skill positions, you're simply talking about wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, cornerbacks, and safeties. Outside of that, the linebackers and fullbacks or whatnot, or tight ends, those are simply intermediate positions. And then you have the offensive linemen and D linemen, which are the big guys. So we're just talking about the outside guys, right? What's his name? Hunter Renfrow. I would take Justin Jefferson over Hunter Renfrow. I would probably, Adam Thielen can make a case right there too with Hunter Renfrow. But at the same time, you got Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams. Okay, that's an area that I would give the Las Vegas Raiders. But I'm taking Dalvin Cook over their running back there. I believe his last name is Jacobs. I can't think of his first name right now. I'm taking
Jacobs?
Dalvin Cook. Josh Jacobs, running back at Alabama, played a few years ago. I'm taking Dalvin Cook over him any day of the week. Accuracy-wise and just being a better quarterback, I would probably take Kirk. I think there are some things that a lot of people argue in the locker room or outside of the locker room that what's his name, that Derek Carr has over Kirk. But honestly, I would probably take Kirk Cousins in that situation. Safeties, you got Harrison Smith, who's one of the best safeties in the NFL. And then I'm not sure if the Las Vegas Raiders have a standout corner right now. I know they have some guys that are budding, but right now I'm going to take the future Hall of Famer Patrick Peterson over those guys. So I would take that over Las Vegas for sure. When you talk about the San Francisco 49ers, they got Brandon Ayuk and the Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knife, he's gonna win that race by a long shot because he can do so many different things. But I still think that the trio and Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson, I'm just taking those guys any day of the week over the two guys that the San Francisco 49ers have. I may be wrong. I'm open for discussion, but I'm not trying to be a homer here. But I just think that the Minnesota Vikings are a little bit better than that. I do think the Cincinnati Bengals do have a lot better skill positions than the Vikings, but that's still an argument to have too.
Yeah, I probably left you hanging out to dry a little bit here because Barnwell had his own definition of what a skill player is, and it was wide receiver, running back, and tight end. So for whatever that's worth, Darren Waller for the Raiders, for instance, would influence that list, and that's probably why they got their ranking. But I feel like it's not bad to be number 4. It's not bad to be in the top, basically 10% of the league. How about this? Kyler Murray signs a $230 million extension, Gabe. That was a pretty polarizing topic over the offseason. There were reports of him being disgruntled in Arizona when everybody just assumed he's just leveraging for money. Well, he got it. He got $46 million per year. He's the number 2 paid quarterback in football. Gabe, will the Cardinals regret this decision, or is this going to be chump change once he's winning MVPs?
I personally can't see Kyler Murray winning MVPs in the future. I think he's a really good quarterback, but is he the second best quarterback in the NFL? Absolutely not. Will they regret it? I think they will. I think this is a case where you probably could have traded Kyler Murray, got some really good assets, probably could have got a franchise quarterback for that, and then build towards that. With Kyler Murray, I don't think he's a Lamar Jackson type of player where you have to change your entire offense, but you do have to change your offense around Kyler Murray. And I'm a huge fan of the running quarterback or the new day and age of quarterbacks, but I still have yet to see a run-first quarterback or a quarterback that likes to run the ball, Kyler Murray, win a Super Bowl. You have to have that balance. And Kyler Murray, last year he was injured a little bit. So does his body withstand the test of time? We'll see. But I don't think, a $230 million deal was the right move to make. Personally, if I was a GM, I probably would have let Kyler Murray play through that last year of his contract and then paid him towards the middle of the year. But, you do run the risk of saying, okay, well, Kyler Murray's not going to report to training camp, or he's just going to hold out like a Le'Veon Bell did. So there's some give and take there, but I do think they'll regret this move 5 to 10 years down the road.
Yeah, there's definitely the thought that what he showed early last year, he was probably one of the most exciting players in football. If you look at the body of work, though, it is pretty underwhelming. Record, 22-23-1. Completion percentage, 67%. He's never had a 4,000-yard season. He's had 10 or more interceptions every season. Touchdown to interception ratio, 70-34, so basically 2-to-1. I mean, you want to have, obviously you want your record to be better, but you want to have 4,500-yard seasons. You want to have a 3-to-1 ratio. You want to have a 70% completion percentage. So there's a lot there left on the bone as a passer. As a scrambler, as a runner, he's special. He's super special. But as you alluded to, we've learned that there is more to winning in the playoffs than just mobility. And that's why so many, immobile quarterbacks are very successful in this league, because they have other pieces to their game as well, including the mental game upstairs. We'll see, though. He's only 24, so there's a lot of time left for Murray to get on the right track. Last one for you. I got to fit a Kirk Cousins topic in here. So Locked On Sports has been counting down the top 50 most valuable players in football based on their impact on the betting market. So we partnered with our sponsors BetOnline, and we've been counting down the top 50. So yesterday, Kirk Cousins was in the top 20. He is the 14th most impactful player, or tied for 13th, I should say, with Matt Ryan. He swings the line by 4 points just by existing. If he was out, the Vikings would be 4 points less on the betting line. How do you feel about that, just this concept in general, Gabe, just kind of evaluating where players land in terms of value? And do you think that's about right for Kirk Cousins, or do you think that there's a higher impact that he brings?
Yeah. So the overall scheme of it, I think a lot of it has to deal with, where the teams are. Like you saw Trevor Lawrence on this list, right? And he's, 20th? But in the same breath, the Jaguars really need him. So I understand his impact is very high on that list. I think Kirk Cousins' impact is more value than a Derek Carr, who's in front of Kirk. I think Derek Carr was 13 on this list. Derek Carr was 12 on this list. Kirk Cousins was 14. I think Kirk Cousins makes a bigger impact than a Derek Carr. I mean, just look at the Green Bay Packers game last year. Like, we had, 2 first downs when we had 2 explosives. Kirk Cousins, he's not going to be the flashiest quarterback, right? He's not going to, pull the ball down and run for 40 yards or do certain things that make you say, oh, man, like this guy is, the next superstar. But Kirk Cousins does a lot of things for this Vikings offense that goes unnoticed. I believe just based off of this list, Kirk Cousins is a more accurate quarterback than any of these guys on this list. And accuracy plays a huge deal when it comes to playing the quarterback position. Yeah, when Kirk Cousins gets pressure in his face, that's when people say, okay, that value goes down a little bit. But I think that this line is a little skewed. I think Kirk Cousins makes a bigger impact than what people are saying. But in the same breath, you look at it and you say there's room for improvement, right? If this offense, if Kevin O'Connell was going to give Kirk Cousins the keys to this offense, then his value is only going to go up. So I think this number will either go up or go down by the middle to the end of the season. But I think it's pretty spot on right now. I'll maybe move him up a couple of more spots.
All right. The top 10 of this list was just revealed moments ago by Locked On Sports. Would you like to hazard a guess, Gabe, who the number 1 most impactful player is in the NFL based on betting impact?
Aaron Rodgers.
Incorrect.
Not Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? Or nope. I'm just thinking of, is it a quarterback?
Yes.
Lamar Jackson.
Nope.
Man.
I'll give you two more guesses. 2 more guesses.
Patrick Mahomes.
Is number 2.
Josh Allen?
Correct.
Wow. I can see that.
He's worth an 8-point swing, which to me is insane. It's insane that he'd be more than Mahomes. That's crazy. So I don't know if they're taking into account just like that the backup is really bad in Buffalo. Isn't it Trubisky? Yeah. I don't know who it is. No, he's with the Steelers.
Trubisky now.
Okay, it is. Okay. Yeah, no, that's crazy. Check out the list, though, at Locked On Podcast. Very interesting concept.
Yeah, this I'm sure these numbers will have some teetering range between now and next February. But I can see why Josh Allen is probably the most impactful player in the NFL on that list. You can make the argument of Pat Mahomes, but we're going to see this year how Pat Mahomes does without Tyreek Hill, because if the Chiefs, take a hard turn left and Pat Mahomes isn't hurt, then you're going to have to put Tyreek Hill at number 2 at that point. So we'll see. But Josh Allen, that's fair. In my opinion, I believe that's fair because he is a really good quarterback. And if he's not there, Stephon Diggs doesn't have the year. That offense doesn't have the year. I don't think that defense is as good as it's been. Their defense has been top 3 the past 4 years. So a lot of that, in my opinion, is attributed to Josh Allen because he's keeping the defense, the Bills defense, on the bench. So we'll see how that fares out.
Yeah, no doubt. He's an exciting player. He deserved to be in the AFC Championship last year, and I can't wait to see how he develops.
Absolutely, man. Well, speaking of develop, this show has officially come to an end. Sam, I appreciate you as always. Matt, our producer in the back, this was a great show. Ron Johnson, I'm sure he'll be back next week. But in the meantime, fans, you will be seeing a lot of me coming through this season. So stay tuned right here to the Ron Johnson Show on Locked On Sports. We will see you on Monday.